I can remember that I didn't even know how to read and how to write, but I managed to remember how to write the connect and full IP address into the console to connect to the server I needed to join. So
Welcome back, everybody, to Valoranting. I think the hype is really building for Game Changers, especially a global clash. A chance to take the measure of all of our regions against one another, especially with teams like Liquid and G2 Gozen, and of course Cloud9 and White being so dominant in their home regions. We're very excited to pit them against each other. I thought this would be a great chance to sort of continue to build some of that anticipation here and bring in someone very intimately involved with one of these top teams. So, everybody, to help me welcome to the show, G2 Gozen's coach, Carcass. Thank you so much for coming on the show, mate. Thank you for joining us.
thank you, guys. It's a pleasure.
Holy shit, that room's pimped out, man.
That's right? I love it. Looking good. Looking good over there. That's what we'd like to see. Carcass, man, obviously, thanks for joining us. For those that follow the European scene, they'd know you from teams like Wave Esports, and there's a stint on Absolute Legends as well going back. So you obviously have got a rich history in Valorant as well, and I'm sure that's not it. Tell us a little bit about your background here before coming into Valorant and before becoming the coach here for G2 Gozen.
Yeah, I mean, the first competitive game I was made my first steps into competitive was Dota 2. Like
Ooh.
that's totally out of the scene, and but it was only like small steps. Like not, I wouldn't even call it like semi-professional, but I went to like some national, like local tournaments, I would say. But I wasn't really successful there because I knew that FPS games are still like the better for me, and I'm just better in it. So then I switched to CS:GO, basically like instantly. Like I didn't play competitively like 1.6 or 1.5, even though I started playing CS when I was like 5 years old. No, like 6 years old, yeah, like 6, 7. So it was like 1.5, like with my older brother and stuff. Like I can remember that I didn't even know how to read and how to write, but I managed to remember how to write the connect and full IP address into the console to connect to the server I needed to join. So yeah, that was my the start. And yeah, when I was like 18 years old, I decided, yeah, I'm gonna try playing CS:GO. And I went instantly after 3 months. I went into once again local tournament. I won a third place out of like 7, 8 teams, and I thought, oh my god, like that's not bad. We almost beat like top Latvian team. Like they were like at the time they were like the best in the Baltic countries, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm good at it, And then I started grinding, like switching teams constantly, like creating one, then got invited to the better one, and then kinda like I reached the top in Lithuania, I would say. We were like one of the best teams. Then we kind of reached the top in Baltic teams, like in the Baltic scene overall, like Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And then my grind stopped because yeah, like I couldn't go through that level, So I was like basically grinding FPLC, rank G, trying to reach FPL and stuff, but I wasn't successful, unfortunately. And yeah, at that time, like after like I don't know 4 or 5 years of like playing CS:GO, I saw that my motivation is like going down. Yeah, and I decided like it's now or never. I need to like either switch the game or just quit gaming, And like I decided to switch the game.
Okay. And I thought you were gonna say, Carcass, that at 5 years old you didn't know how to read or write, but you knew how to control an AK spray in Counter Strike 1.6. I was gonna be like, that's fucking
I knew
insane.
that as well.
I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so you made the switch over to Valorant, and if I remember correctly, you're also involved with like Wave Esports back then when you were first starting in Valorant, and I kind of want to like ask you the contrast of what it was like grinding the quote unquote tier 2 scene out in Europe, because for example here in North America, we have like all those monthly events with the Nursery Gamers, with the PK monthlies and Sacro Cups, etc. But in Europe it feels like there's not that much going on. So how do you keep that motivation to continue to find that success in Valorant, and what type of support system you think Valorant kind of had in Europe?
I mean, we were kind of happy with the organization we had. Like back then, we had like a really nice team with like a good chemistry and stuff. And the motivation was just there, you know, and like we wanted to be the best. We knew that we're pretty much close to the top, that we can once again like reach the at least VCT and stuff. We in the qualifiers event pretty close, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost versus Fnatic, I think 2 times in like close games. And yeah, we knew that we have everything. We just need like to fix like small details, small mistakes, and we're gonna be on top, you know. And like it didn't really matter that like there was no big tournaments, like not like lower tournaments, I would say, lower tier tournaments that much in EU. Of course, it was like pity to see, you know, like, oh my god, NA has like this and that and that and this prize pools, and yeah, but I mean it is what it is, you know, like
Yeah.
you get like you take what you get, you know. So
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I kind of just wanted to ask more of like the coach-based questions because obviously, I did a lot of coaching and I know where a lot of my team, a lot of my time went up into like strat making. I just kind of wanted to know, like, first of all, how are you like enjoying the coaching? And more like, what's like your main focus in terms of like your like role in the team in terms of coaching? Like, what do you find fills up like the majority of your time?
I mean, first of all, I really enjoy coaching.
Mhm.
I don't have like like a comparison, you know, because like it's my first time coaching overall. Back in CS, I didn't even had a coach, like a proper coach. In Valorant, like my only coach was in VAV Esports, like Itzo basically, and we had like an analyst Forest, and like I learned how they're working from their perspective basically, and I took everything what they did good, and I took that and like I'm trying to implement that into my team, and I took also what I didn't like about their coaching style, and I'm trying to avoid that, you know. Like so, basically, that's how I'm trying to grow as a coach, you know, because like I didn't had any like features or stuff, you know, like and any like backgrounds. So yeah, like and answering the question, I'm kind of splitting it up like everywhere. Like I'm doing individual reviews with the team, like with the teammates. I'm also doing like team reviews. I'm doing analytical job as well because I'm the only one in the coaching staff of G2 Gozen. So it like basically everything goes on my shoulders in this case. But since like my players are like really experienced, we're kind of working closely with Julia, I would say, and like during the scrims, she's doing a lot of work, like kind of as a like assistant coach, I would say, where she's like pointing out mistakes, like individual players' mistakes, you know, when we're like things didn't go well, you know, like this utility wasn't used and like when it was needed and stuff like that. So she's pointing that things, and I'm more like putting like a broad picture of the team, like what should like the rotations, like the positionings, like
So a
what sites we should hit.
macro-oriented approach.
Yeah, macro oriented.
Yeah.
Like I would say, yeah, because as I said, like especially when we had Zaz as well, she was also like with a huge pack of experience. You know, we have Mimi Pete also, like who's like been in the scene for like so long time, so they know a lot of things. So my job is easier with that team, and I don't know how it would be like if I would take like totally new team, and I would need to make them good. You know, so maybe my like how to say my coaching style would be different because I'm still learning, you know, and yeah.
What I find interesting, obviously, you talk about there's a fair bit on your shoulders, right? But you're also exposed to like many of the different aspects of coaching. So this is actually a great opportunity to find out what resonates most with you by kind of doing as much of it. So it's kind of a cool environment for you to explore that. I want to like go back
Yeah.
a little bit. This is like a two-parter, yeah. First, I want to know like how did the opportunity to sort of jump into this G2 Gozen roster come about? And you know, I'm curious to know like for you, what kind of drew you to this opportunity? What kind of because obviously you were you know you spent so long as a player, you know, obviously, and it's a bit of a leap, right, to move into a coaching role, especially with the team that has, I'd say, pretty high expectations already. So yeah, how to come about, and what is it about G2 that sort of drew you in?
I mean, I would like to say like that it was like a long story how I went to the coaching, but unfortunately it wasn't. Basically, it was like totally out of the blue. I wrote like I knew Mimi from before.
Yep.
Like we were grinding FPLC in CS:GO and stuff, and we just like we were friends kinda. and it was always a pleasure to play with each other, you know. And like in Valorant, when she switched later on, I didn't have any contact basically, but I saw that they're playing with the team, and they're like preparing for the game changers and stuff. And I just like randomly wrote her on Instagram, "Yo, what's up? Do you need any help like to prepare for the tournament for the European and blah blah blah?" And she said, "Yeah, like we're not having any coaches. I
Wow.
would need to talk with the team and stuff." And I was like, "Okay, okay." But at that back then, I didn't knew that it was G2.
Mm.
Like I didn't know that there's any org behind them. Like even though there was like a rumors in the scene that, oh my god, like these girls are like being signed by G2. I didn't know that for some reason. I don't know, even though it was like on the news pages and stuff. Yep, that's the message. uh, yep, and yeah, like after 2 days, like I've been contacted by their esports manager, Noki, and he just like called me on a call. We had like a little interview, and he said like, "Yo, you wanna pack your bags and come into GT office like in 2 days?" I'm like, "Sure." Let's try. And yeah, it was a kind of shock for me because I wasn't doing anything, so I had no prep documents, you know, and anything. So I had to like I don't know, fast run, like speed run, prepare something for them. And yeah, we went into the tournament. We took the third place, I think, for the first time, and the team was happy overall with me, how I'm working and stuff. We found like a common ground, I would say. And yeah, and overall the organization was happy, and yeah, they said like, come on, let's try to work for the upcoming years.
Definition of
awesome.
like being thrown in the deep end, really, isn't it? You have 2 days to prepare something for this team. That's wild, man. All right, Van, you're up.
Yeah, no, I think it's also very interesting as well because, you know, you just said you had 2 days of prep to get to the G2 offices, and then suddenly you guys win a Game Changers tournament, which is really cool as a storyline because overall that's when you started seeing like the dominance of G2 esports in the Game Changer scene in general, winning events after events. So this now comes to a surprise for me when I read about Zaz leaving the roster and wanting to retire because, you know, you say you've been playing Counter-Strike since 1.5. Zaz's been around during that time as well. I remember when I was following her and like the team that they got with like Meet Your Makers to eventually become Les Cells, and then being like one of the top competitors versus the Christine Potter of North America, right? Like the Alice Liu and stuff like that too. So I know that she has a competitive drive to want to continue to be the best. And I didn't think that Zaz would retire until we actually see the Game Changers LAN, and then she wins that, and then finally she could close the books and move on to the next thing. So did this come as a surprise for you to see Zaz just up and leave, and what was like the reasoning behind all of this? If you're able to share, that is.
Yeah, we kind of like expected the same from like as you did, like that she's probably gonna like at the worst case she's gonna retire after the like the LAN
We're
event
landing.
when we're gonna win it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
After
it. I love it.
But yeah, it was kind of shock for us because like the first two person who like she shared that with, it was like me and our manager Tibu.
Mm.
And yeah, we're like, okay, uh but we were kind of ready for it. By your surprise,
Mm.
we were already talking with Mary back at the den, like when she wasn't even like said that.
Okay.
Because like what we had in mind, like it's not a like
A secret.
it's not a secret,
Yeah.
yeah, that our team's like average age is pretty high,
Yeah.
and sooner or later people gonna retire. Like maybe they're gonna switch something, you know, and like maybe whatever.
Mhm.
And yeah, we kind of knew that we need a young gun to maybe change and replace the older experienced player.
Mhm.
So we already were in the contact with Mary, and of course, uh, it was only in the early stages, like of talking with her. So yeah, like of course, like losing Zaz was a huge shock, and like a, how to say, not a downgrade because it's a new player and stuff.
Mhm.
We still need to prepare here, but yeah, yeah, and basically we kind of started our steps preparing Mary like earlier. Of course, like Zaz, like when we were talking about Zaz, what she had like in our team and what she bring us is like morale and motivation and like overall like how charismatic she is.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you've seen any of our vlogs, you can see like you hear screaming, shouting, and stuff.
Of course.
So that's what I think that we might lack in the future a bit. But we're putting our work on it, and we're trying to build this hype and momentum like habits in the team. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
that's there's no Zaz anymore. We need to hype each other. We need to like cheer each other up if like something is not going well. And I think Maddie is like a great addition for us.
Nice.
And like she's super young, she's super talented, and now she just needs to learn those small details. And so far, she's fitting the team well.
For sure. For sure.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to ask you about in terms of like your prep as well. Like how heavy are you? So like when you guys have like a game coming up, how heavy are you guys going into prep and ante? Are you proper going in doing like a lot of stuff? Do you have a guy to work? You have a analyst as well, right? With you. So how
No,
much
we
like
don't have
Oh,
analysts.
it's you,
do you know
right,
it's just on
Carcass?
your own?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
oh, yeah, it's only me.
Okay, yeah. So so kind of like how much prep are you doing, and then I guess like how many like anti like strats are you actually like going in, or is it more just you guys playing your own game?
At least in EMEA, like in Game Changer scene, it is not really hard to like counter strat enemy teams because all of the teams at the top level has their patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's it's one or two bots, and you can clearly see what strat they're gonna use. And like because it's super structured, like like either like one team, it doesn't matter which one, like they're playing like pretty much no structure, but they have like default plan. Like if the reveal is going there, they're gonna go there, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
and these small details that you can catch up on it, like it's that makes it pretty much easy to read the opponents, you know? So like it doesn't require us like a lot of time. So basically usually I'm doing it on my own and then like I'm presenting it to the team like a super short version of it. And so far it's working. So like we're gonna keep it doing like that probably until it works. If we'll see that we need to like we require more time to analyze the enemy teams, then we're probably gonna spend a little bit more time and like going more in details. But so far, like as I said, it's like it's pretty obvious how the enemy teams play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And actually, it ties into another question that I wanted to ask on top of that in terms of like competition and how you prepare is, and this is also a question that comes in from chat here from Stallion M. Just asking, like in general with G2 Gozen, or how does the Game Changers team practice in general? Is there any other Game Changer teams that you practice against to scrim, or do you get to actually scrim versus like VCT teams to try to improve, or is it really just within the region or within your own scene? How does that work for you guys?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a rule that we never scrim against any female team.
Mm.
And we're usually like I'm booking the scrims
Mhm.
because like as a player I knew like what's like I know almost like I don't know probably 80 or 70% of the players
course.
itself.
Yeah.
Like if I see any of the good name in the team, I just take it, like if the team name is unknown. But we are trying to like scrim teams from like top groups in EU,
Mm-hmm.
like Euro, Valorant and stuff. And yeah, like we scrimmed against VCT teams. Like we're from time to time we're scrimming against G2 male team as well.
Nice.
Like we have this opportunity.
Yeah.
So it helps us out like a lot, I would say, because like then the Pipson can share us with like some feedback and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really nice. And with other VCT teams, not that much because they're not accepting us that much, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it just makes like we have this mindset that whatever team we're gonna play in scrims, it's gonna be better team than we're gonna play in game changers, you know. So we like we don't mind winning, we don't mind losing the scrim. We just go for like there is like gameplay itself, you know. Like
Mhm.
we're just trying to get the maximum out of it.
Is that how you're practicing? Is that how you're preparing for like an international Game Changers LAN then as well? Or do things change there? You know, does it feel like maybe you want to maybe change the way you prep for an event of that sort of scale? Or is it kind of the same way you've been prepping as you just explained before?
I mean, we didn't fully started prepping for the international event. Like, we're still not guaranteed with the spots,
Mhm.
so we're like taking it step by step. We have like third game changers in front of us.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't think that's I don't think that we gonna change the preparation style. But what we definitely gonna do is like analyzing more, because we don't have an opportunity to like play against these players in any tournament. So it's totally different approach when you play against the team and then you're watching. We don't even know like on what level Cloud9 White is. Like,
Yeah.
they're winning in their region, but you still cannot like, just from watching them, you cannot say like who is the better team,
Yeah.
and how good they are.
That's
I got a question, sorry, that kind of goes on to that. In terms of like Cloud9 White and Team Liquid, the female team as well, is there any other teams like that you have been watching? And if so, like how much of those other regions are you watching?
I mean, I would really like to like see Shopify Rebellion like as well. Like, they almost beat Cloud9 White,
yeah.
and it was like a really good fight, and I think that they kind of deserve the win, but unlucky. Also, other regions, like for example, Crew from Chile and Alter Ego from Indonesia. Like, you cannot underestimate these other regions as well. Like, because once, as I said, like, you don't know how they play. They're the best in their region, so that means that they have something to show on it, right? Like, it's the same in Copenhagen now. Like, and in the previous VCT, like, there's other teams like from other regions who we kinda maybe underestimate because they're from the smaller region. They're like not that huge names and stuff, but they're popping off, and they're like just here to like for the win, So
Yeah. Well, because you're also mentioned before, Carcass, just saying like the Game Changers teams, at least in your region in Europe, it's like obvious how they play. And if you're trying to compare it to other regions, when you're saying, well, we don't know who's the better team until we get to play them, what is the actual competition currently like in EMEA? Because we had the ex-analyst of Fnatic before Anders come in last week, and he was saying like, if it's G2, 10-star, Guildex or whatnot are still pretty close. While for North America, it's like Cloud9 White and Shopify Rebellion, then you have the rest. Is that what it's like in Europe, or it's just like G2's pretty dominant right now in your eyes?
like, I'm not a fan like of underestimating teams and players,
Yeah.
So I say that they're pretty close, like the rest of the team, as you mentioned, like 10-star, now Navi, and also Guild, but they still need to fix some things to actually beat us and stuff like that. Like, but we're not sleeping as well, and we're like fixing our stuff, and we're not on like. It's easier to reach the top, but it's hard to be there, and like to stay there. So I think that these teams are like favorites, but like from the last Game Changers, I got surprised by other teams as well. Like for example, Case, and there was also one team, but whatever. So yeah, like the scene is growing, and I would say, and maybe like in a year or two, we're gonna see like more competitors, like more new female team players and teams who can like be in the top, and like it makes like the scene closer, and harder to compete in.
How does the goal setting then work? Obviously I mentioned International Game Changers, but it's pretty clear that yourself and the team are really just trying to focus on what's in front of you. So yeah, in terms of like this next Game Changers that's coming up. So then how does that affect like your goal setting overall? Like, is there a goal for this year, or is it for just this season or a few months? Like, when you first joined the team, like what was, when you sit and look at a whiteboard and you go, okay, here's what we're aiming for. What was that goal? And like, has that changed much since you came on board?
I mean, overall, like G2's vision is to be at the top, like to be the best team in like the game you're competing in. So it's like it's not different from our team's goal. And when I first joined, we had like actually a meeting with the team and like we talked about our goals for like this season. We're not going like deeper into it, but one of the first goals was, of course, like to win all the game changers and to win international events.
Mm-hmm.
But also we had the first when we just meet, we had also a goal to qualify for a regional league, but it didn't happen. Like yeah, like we kind of realized that it's like too tough competition for now.
Mhm.
But still, it's like back in our heads that we want one day we want to like beat at least some of the good tournament, like good teams in the qualifiers
VCTs,
for
yeah.
VCT, for example.
Yeah.
And to knock them out, it would be like a perfect scenario, right?
Yeah.
For sure,
That-
for sure.
I kind of wanted to ask you again, kind of looking forward as well. What's your like views on all of the franchising that's coming up, and how do you think it's going to like affect Game Changers?
Overall, the view of
Yeah,
franchising,
pretty much overall, like your opinion on it, and then how you kind of think it's going to affect the scene.
it's a hard question actually. It maybe closes the possibilities and for like a younger players or like not the top tier one players who's like not gonna be in the franchise. It's gonna be maybe harder to find orgs, but it also depends on what kind like it's gonna be,
Mm-hmm.
how they're gonna make the tier two scene basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's gonna be enough tournaments, enough viewership for the orgs to play in and like to have sponsors and stuff. But for those who's gonna be in like franchise league, like I think it's really good. Like it just makes you all the guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
You're always on the spotlight, and you can always compete. And there is no like no risks for you to that your organization or your like your team is gonna drop down
Mhm.
to regional. Especially when we know that's like in Valorant is still like there's no dominant performances. Like everyone can beat everyone basically. Like there's like some, of course, there's some favorite teams, but when I was playing, there was like always upsets. Like
Mhm.
some random, like random at the, back then, you know, like
Mhm.
Polish team just beats like one of the top teams, and like they're knocking out. And especially for now, like if there is no last chance qualifier, like teams are waiting for last chance qualifier. If you drop down, like you need to wait 5-6 months and doing nothing basically.
Mhm.
And I heard like some teams are having struggles even to find scrims because there's
People are
like
giving up.
player break of like
Yeah.
6 months, you know. And
Involuntary player break.
It's a,
for
it's a
6
long
months.
ass break. Yeah.
yeah, so they're trying to grant radiant, I guess. And yeah, but besides that, like for the game changers, I'm not sure if it's gonna affect that much. I hope that maybe like if there's gonna be franchise and like male scene and so on, maybe they're gonna have more time to put some time into female scene and
Mhm.
game changers, and maybe there's gonna be more tournaments than 3 of
Mhm.
them, you know, and like maybe there's gonna be more LAN tournaments. Maybe they're gonna use the studio they're gonna use for like franchise league, like for game changers as well, like in some days, you know, and
Mhm.
maybe they're gonna fill it up with like some nice stuff for the
Sure.
female scene because it's growing. Like
Yeah.
the organizations are coming in like one by one, and yeah, it's cool.
At least for now, there hasn't been any direct conversations with the game changer scene about franchising or anything, right? Everything that we heard about is still VCT related.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's obviously the discussion about like how it affects tier two is the most interesting to
Yeah,
me.
of course,
like
of
what's
course.
left in the wake of that sort of change. Sorry, Vince.
No, it's all good. No, it's good to know as well that we'll see what happens. Maybe this time the guinea pig is the actual VCT circuit, and then we'll see what happens if it was a good move or not. And then maybe the game changers format is probably the best format to look at to continue to pump and support the Valorant scene. But speaking of VCT itself, I don't know if you had a chance to look at Masters 2 and see if there was anything that really popped for you that impressed you. Any team, again, looking at underestimating teams or not, what were the big surprises of Masters 2 that you've seen so far, Carcass?
I mean, probably like everyone is surprised how Paper X is playing good. Like they're insane. Like other than that, like I'm really surprised by like other regions, like other
Yeah.
small, like Leviathan, for example. They put a like super good fight versus Fnatic, and that was like insane to watch. And yeah, that's satisfying me, you know, like that. Like I'm always it's probably not me only. That's we're cheering for the underdogs, right?
Yeah, of
Like
course.
underdog stories, like super nice to watch, and yeah, and it's really entertaining for me. And but for EMEA representatives, like I don't know, I'm cheering for FPX,
Yeah.
and I hope they're gonna succeed. But that's my personal view, you know.
Mm.
And
That's interesting too, because and not only I'll ask the question for you, Carcass, but also for you, Sliggy, because you guys have the minds of like learning Valorant and like trying to instill a certain play style that Valorant should be played at, of course, right, at the highest level. And there was a conversation that I had even with Sean Garris and DDK in the past, when this is looking back at like Masters, I think 2, when FaZe Clan was like the definition of Schmeeg, and having the over-aggressive playstyle of Valorant was like super cool and entertaining to see. But at the same time, it felt like it was hindering how Valorant should be played, because, you know, you're coming out, it's supposed to be strategical. There's a lot of abilities. There's a lot of teamwork and combination that should be put together in order to play the best Valorant. But then suddenly you have teams like FaZe Clan, like PRX, that could just run it down against you and still win, breaking all the timings that you have in terms of ability synergy. So do you think at the same time it's still a bad thing to see this type of like over-aggressive playstyle that seems to be getting a lot of success versus the tactical style of Valorant? Long question, but
should I answer it first?
yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead, Carcass.
I don't think that's a bad playstyle. Like if it's working for the team, like even back in like if you watch back to TS, you know, like there is Brazil teams
Of
who are
course.
like super aggressive, you know, and like
Make it
it's working
art.
for them. And if yeah, and if you're gonna try to copy them, you know, it's not gonna work out for you, you know,
Mhm.
like because it's not your team's playstyle. And if it's like I don't see any problems of teams playing like that until it's working for them. You know, like when I was playing in Wave, we also kind of went for like double duelist comp, you know, and like heavy execute based, and it was like working for them until the some point, you know, when teams are actually understanding how you play and trying to counter that. Of course, we're not on that high level as Paper X right now, like that we couldn't out aim everyone because there was like super good aimers as well who can like just counter that. But yeah, like I'm a fan. Like variety is a good thing, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that as well. I think it's just like it's so nice to have this game where you can just kind of decide your own style of play and just kind of do what you want to do. With, like you can go fast, you can go really slow, like methodical. Loads of teams that just create so much chaos and just kind of just work around it. So it's cool. And that kind of brings me on to another question as well. How would you decide? Like, how would you describe your place, like the actual play style of the team?
Yeah.
Would you say it's more like methodical, or are we causing chaos?
Mm, I think our team is kind of mix of those. Like we're like our playstyle, if you would like watch back our VODs and stuff, we're playing pretty defaulty style and we're reacting on what opponent is doing. And like I think that's the one of the biggest difference in MEA scene. That's other teams are not reading the game. Like they're just going for their plays, like what they're doing and stuff. Maybe on defender side, they're like countering some things, you know. But when they're playing attack, they just have their plan and they're following it. If it doesn't work, like they're going to plan B and trying again to do that, you know. And I think that's the like the biggest difference between our team and the rest of the game changers in MEA.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting to see. You know, it's one thing to have your strategy or your default play, and then just sort of try and execute that. And it's another to take feedback from what you're actually seeing and how the flow of information goes, and acting on that. And it's clear to see that's one of the reasons why G2 sort of is starting to show us definitely head and shoulders above the rest. Carcass, I mean, obviously you talk about, you know, looking toward this this next Game Changers, man. So good to hear you guys aren't getting ahead of yourselves and you're focused. Good luck. Thanks for coming on the show. It's been really, really good to pick your brain. I thought the story, especially your origin, getting into G2 Gozen was fascinating, man. So thanks for taking the time to share that with us.
Thanks for having me here. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Carcass. Appreciate it.
And good luck. Hopefully, we'll see you at
Thank
the
you.
International
Good luck,
Game
bro.
Changers LAN.
Bye-bye.
See you in Berlin.
See you.